And what was expanded, what Secretary of State's office did, is if someone is symptomatic, has COVID, and they're symptomatic, that they can also vote curbside. So we're encouraging that as well.
So you just for people who are disabled or couldn't physically make it in.
Right. If you're physically disabled, right. And yes. And then entering the polling place would cause harm and injury to you or to others.
Right. So now if you're physically ill and you didn't have a mail-in ballot, you can still vote. You can go and
yes. Well, they limit it to COVID, right?
Yeah.
So if you're symptomatic with COVID, yeah, absolutely. Because I know that there were some questions about quarantine. So if they have it and they're quarantined, how are they going to be able to vote? Well, if you can get to the polling location, yes, you'll be able to vote. Yeah. So we have 25 early voting locations. We're going to probably have
how many did we have last presidential election? Just for comparison.
We have at 23.
Okay, so a couple more.
Yeah,
I know you got the American,
but these are also all permanent locations.
These are what?
These are permanent locations, so they're there the entire time. So what we did is we would do a week here and a week at another location, and so we would switch them. But all 25, they're all open the same time, the same hours. I've ordered an additional Saturday voting, and we'll have the Saturday from 7 to 7 and an additional Sunday voting. And so, but both Sundays, these poll workers, they're amazing. We couldn't have an election without them, but they need a break. I mean, I really literally could not run an election without all the amazing poll workers and my staff, but they're going to need a break. So the only location that's going to be open is going to be the courthouse, and that's from 12 to 5 on both Sundays. So what we're also going to do is, because as you know, Governor Abbott expanded the time when you can walk in and hand deliver your ballot. So what we're going to do is be outside, and we're going to push this, and we're going to need your help too, getting the word out that voters, they want to pull up in their car and they can hand deliver their ballot and put it in the ballot box. Right. That is a couple things. Only the voters themselves.
Only on those Sundays, or
on those Sundays, yes.
Okay, so what if I have a mail-in ballot and I want to hand drop it off? What are my options?
Right now, you have to come into the courthouse up to my office, and then on this, like I said, then on the Sunday you can drive up as well.
Okay, so I can hand drop it off to you in your office.
Yes.
Or on Sunday I can drop it off outside.
Outside, yes.
All right, and that's because what is the Texas election law surround? Just so that people know, it's not you just deciding that you can't have ballot boxes all over town.
Right. So there's not drop boxes, and we've heard a lot of this in the news of why don't we have drop boxes everywhere? Well, the law doesn't allow that. So you can handle
Texas law, to be clear.
Texas law. You're right. Texas law does not allow that. But you can hand deliver it to my office where I conducted business.
Right.
So right. But I just got off the phone, and I think we've talked about this. I've been working closely with our local Postmaster General. She's amazing. She's actually from Oregon, and they've been doing mail-ins for years in Oregon. Yeah. So we've been working closely, and when you mail your ballot, they know what our carrier envelope looks like. They know the volume. We're going to contact them every day when we're mailing the ballots out. Okay, 2,000 ballots are going out today, just so you know, so they can be aware of what's going out. We're even give them like the zip codes of where they're going to go, so they can help us keep track of them. They can keep track of them. But when people put their ballot in the mail, it goes straight. They're going to bring them straight to our post office. They don't go anywhere else.
So they're not going to go to San Antonio first?
No.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. So that's, we can have confidence that our local Postmaster General and our local carriers are really looking out for all the voters, and they understand, and they want to protect your vote.
So envelopes do require stamps, though. They do require.
So you need to put postage on them, but if you don't, they do get pushed through. They will not be returned. And that's a guideline that's been in place for several years.
Yeah. Very interesting. Okay. So we've applied for a ballot by mail and you receive the application. What percentage of those get rejected?
A very small number, and we hate rejecting. We do. Most of the reasons why they get rejected is, so if someone puts for the reason that they're out of the county, but they won't put an out of county address. They forget to do that, or they forget to put the date. You have to put a date when you can start receiving mail at that out of county address. Sometimes the dates that they put, they're in town, so maybe, we have to call them. We love it when you put your phone number, because we will do a courtesy call to the voter, or even your email. We'll send you an email saying, hey, we have to reject this. This is why. We're going to send you another application. Just make sure you're filling it out so we can communicate with the voter to let them know. So that's a lot of the reasons. Also, if they don't, if they don't put a reason on there, so if they don't check off, if they're 65 or if they're disabled. So if they don't say a reason, the grounds for doing it,
right,
we have to reject it. And also if you don't sign it, but you don't have, if you're unable to make your mark, there is a witness portion that, so if we know if they are unable to.
If that part is filled
Correct.
out too. So would you say that it would be helpful if everybody who was going to vote by mail sent in their applications as soon as possible?
Absolutely.
No, and did not wait until the theoretical deadline of October 23rd.
Yes.
And also,
and you're going to get your ballot sooner. Right? Because we can't mail you your ballot until we get your application. And as we get closer to the deadline, it's just a mad rush to send your application. But, we still have to process that. But then there's, we don't have ballots just they're called live ballots just on a shelf waiting for someone to, your ballot is printed for you, for the voter. So once it's processed, we process your application, then a label is made, you're in the system, and a ballot is printed at that time for you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So also, I know the vote by mail application doesn't require a phone number or an email on there, but
it doesn't.
You're saying it sounds like it'd be very helpful if people.
Yes, it's very helpful. And the voters that they do put their number or their email address, and we reach out to them, they appreciate that, because the last thing you want is a letter from us with the rejected stamp. Although we explain on the form and we send you another application. So that's why we like to give, I call it a courtesy heads up to the voter.
Yeah. That makes sense. So once I send in my application to get a ballot by mail, I don't necessarily know whether you've gotten it and processed it until I receive the ballot or not. I mean, depending.
Right. Right now, there's not a system in place in Texas where you can track it. We wish, because we get calls all the time. And, voters just want to know, have you received it? And only the voter, we can only give the information to the voter. So we verify the voter's identity, and we can yes, we received it. You should be getting a ballot. So it would help with the number of calls if the voter could just say, yes, they've received it. Yeah. And I'm good. Yeah.
I always say, state legislatures, if you're listening, this is something that we would like. So maybe you can make that happen. Make it so that.
We definitely have a list of what we need to work on and address in January. Yeah.
I know the MOVE Act made it so that military people can track their ballots. And so you can go in the Secretary of State's office and you can track their FPCA ballots, but normal people can't track theirs, which means technology is there. They just need to make it extend to everyone.
Well, most of the military we email to them through a secure email address. That is something, and overseas.
Yeah. I'm looking real quickly. So masks do poll workers, are they required to wear masks?
Yes, I do require them to wear a mask. And in fact, I've had poll workers who they don't want to wear a mask. Well, I'm not going to hire you.
There you go. I appreciate, I'm sure we all appreciate that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's part of it. Now if you want to just wear a face shield, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
But you have to have a face covering. Now, I can't make voters wear a mask, but
you can recommend.
We encourage, absolutely.
Or wish,
we strongly encourage that. Yeah, everyone should do your part.
Yeah.
Let's look out for each other.
It's a state thing. The governor said he won't make you require them. So you can do what you can do.
Right. Yeah. But to work at a polling location for early voting, absolutely. Now on election day, it's different, because remember, the presiding judge of that vote center, they're the presiding judge. They run that vote center. They have the same power as a district court judge. I can't tell them how to run that vote center.
That's a really good point. Can you explain to people why there's a difference between how early voting is run and how election day is run? Because that was surprising to me.
Yeah, so I'm the early voting clerk, right? So by law, it's in the statutes as the chief election official, county election official. I'm the early voting clerk, and I am in charge of all of early voting. They're my deputies, and I can choose from a list that the parties give to me. And then if I don't have enough people from the list, then I can go and hire. I can appoint people for early voting, and they report to me. Now, election day, the presiding judges are the two parties submit lists to the commissioner's court, and they're appointed as their presiding judges, and they're appointed by commissioner's court. And they are election officials, state election officials, really. They have to take an oath of office. They have the same power as a district court judge, and that's just how the law is written. But everything falls under them. So I really can't go into a polling location of votes in election day and tell that judge how to do things. But we can train them.
That is something that people don't realize, that early is run differently than election day voting.
Right. And so we get complaints, but we need those. I want to know, and if you have an issue with the judge on election day, now if it's early voting, I'll take care of it. If I have to remove someone, if they're not doing what they need to be doing, and someone needs to remove, I have no problem, because I'm going to make sure that voters have the best customer service, because it's customer service, right? In that they have a nice experience voting. But if I have someone and they're not following the law, they're rude, they can be disruptive, I will replace them. I cannot do that on election day. Now, but they did actually change it a little bit this last session, that if there is a presiding judge who just is not doing what they should be doing, and there's lots of complaints, that I can contact the parties, and with the party approval, we can replace them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have one. We only have like a couple minutes left, so I want to try to get ballot boards. So the ballot board. Explain to me, like, who's in charge of that? Who's in it? How does it work? And how does it relate to the new legislation that just came out?
So we're still waiting on that to see. I think their time. I think Secretary of State's time is almost up, right? So the ballot board. This is great. The ballot board. The two parties, they give a list to the county election board. The county election board is myself, the sheriff, the county judge, the tax assessor collector, and the chairs of the two parties. And so they give us a list, and they each provide us 10 people, and that's who they want. And then we approve them. And we trust the parties know, right, their folks. So the presiding judge of the ballot board, it's whoever won the gubernatorial race for that year. It's a Republican. Governor Abbott, he's a Republican. So the presiding judge is a Republican, and her counterpart is a Democrat. And you have equal number of Republicans and Democrats. When we get ballots in, when voters mail their ballots back to us, there's already locked boxes, if you will. And what we're doing, in fact, we're going to be doing this weekend, is we go through and we're going to lock every box. And what we do is we keep track of, this is the key, this is the for this lockbox, and then we deliver the keys to the county judge. So we don't have keys to get in at this point. They're empty ballot boxes. We do it before we mail ballots out, so they're empty. We don't have the keys to get in. The county judge has the keys. So when the ballot board convenes, they go to the county judge's office and get the keys from her. And that's good, because you want the separation of powers.
Oh yeah,
right. The checks and balances.
So then those 10 of you, those 20 people are responsible.
Right. So when we deliver the ballots to them in the locked ballot boxes, we'll deliver it, and then they get it out of the lockbox, and then they start they process them. So we don't touch them in this office, nor should we.
My question: given the Secretary of State's requirement to give you guys sort of new rules, because tell everybody what the new Supreme Court decision was about these, because I know you about it. Tell me what the
so they put a lot on the Secretary of State's office, that they need to come up with, like you said, new rules and a process so that they can let voters know, so the ballot board can let voters know that their signatures don't match, and they can come in and cure that. which, you know what, that should have been done in the legislature years ago.
Yeah.
Because I think that voters should be able to come in and cure that. You have for provisional, they have 6 days to cure a provisional ballot. So,
Right.
and that's, yeah. So, and I think that will be addressed next session.
Right.
Right. But now we're just waiting to hear back how they're supposed to do that. We don't know.
Right.
Mhm.
So when does the ballot board supposedly convene for the first time?
So right now they can convene on the 22nd, but I did actually just spoke to the governor's office today and asking that they allow them to convene as soon as possible, as soon as, you know, they were ready, because they need to.
Because when are you going to start mailing out ballots?
We're going to start mailing them out. Actually, the military ballots will be done tomorrow. The deadline to mail out the overseas and military is Saturday. We'll have those mailed out. So we've already actually emailed the first ballots today, which is exciting. Right. So after it is exciting. After that, we're going to start printing them. And right now we have about 14,000 that we need to mail out.
That's amazing.
Right. So it's going to be, it's going to be, you know, maybe 3,000 a day that we'll be able to process, because there's a lot of, we check them. We make sure that this voter is getting their ballot, because the last thing, there's a lot of checks and balances and a lot of verifying, because, you know, we don't want a voter in Robstown getting a Port A ballot. Right. So there's a lot of verifying they go. So we'll probably get about 2,500 a day, and we're going to start that next week.
So if you're going to start sending those out next week, as we've already said, people can start filling out their ballot and returning them, drop them off or mail them in as soon as they get them.
Yes.
It seems like that ballot board should be starting to meet as soon as you send ballots.
Oh, I agree.
You can start curating ballots immediately, especially if they need to work out with people and say, hey, the signature doesn't match. Turns out it's just somebody elderly or disabled or sick.
Right.
And it's just a little off. So it seems.
I'm 100% agreement with you. Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then also it gives them some time, because it gets exhausting, right? You only have 12 days. Right. And they work. I will tell you what, the ballot board judges, he said the early voting workers, I mean, they will work, in the ballot board, they will be here for 12 hours as well. So they can be a little later than early voting, but
As you know, both of my daughters worked for you during the last, and it was only a primary runoff, and they were long days. They were 10-hour days, and they enjoyed it, but it is a long day to work for weeks.
Well, we have one of them here in the office, and she's great. I wish I could clone her. But she's staying late with us, and we're about to have longer days here.
Oh, I'm sure. All right. So if anybody wants to be a poll worker now, they should contact really to work
for election day.
They should contact.
Right. So thank you for all your help, because we have so many applicants that we're still trying to go through. And it's neat to see that, but this isn't a new problem. There's always an issue with trying to find poll workers. That is, if you remember in 2019, the constitutional election, we had to close down 3 locations because neither party could find presiding judges. So it's not a new issue. I'm glad that people know about it now, which is great. So we've had wonderful applicants. So early voting, we really want that 3-week commitment. We truly do, because, they get in their groove, they get trained, and so we actually do have that. We have so many applicants to go through. We're excited about, but if you just want work one day, maybe if there's a candidate, and we get a lot of that as well. They don't realize that if you want to work for a candidate, or, you're very with your party, which is great, you don't need to work the election, like go with the party, hold a sign. There's other things that you can do as well. So there's a lot of voter education involved with that. So yes, so if you just want one day, want to work election day, yes, call the parties. They'll be happy to have you.
I can see one of the questions that somebody asked here. Well, oh shoot, I should be looking in this other box. Somebody said, if you checked off send for all elections in the runoff application, and then you sent in another application, would that be a problem?
No, it's called a duplicate. So all you're doing is, because there's been a lot of pre-filled applications going out, and I know that has confused some people, but no, we'll get them, we process, and we can see in the system that you've already requested a ballot.
Right.
So
now people can just call you and say, am I already registered and registered to get a mail-in ballot?
Right.
And say yes, you are, no, you aren't, and then they can.
Yes, but only the voter. We cannot release any information on another voter. So only the voter, we can release it to that voter.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
So I'm looking through the Q&A questions super quick so we can.
Okay.
You've already answered some of these Nueces County mail-in voters. There's no way to know whether you got it or not unless they call.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard the possibility that it's legal to have drop boxes, and we know that the only place you could possibly have an annex in our county is Robstown, right?
Right.
The place you normally do business.
And we'll have that as well. Yes.
The county court, so people will be able to drop off in Robstown their ballot?
Yes, on the days that we're open. Yes.
On the days
Yes,
you're
we're
open.
open. Yes, we're open Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'm looking at just keeping it open during early voting as well. Mm-hmm.
All right, so keep us posted on that and we'll make sure we share. So for right now, you can drop off a mail-in ballot at the county courthouse and when Robstown office is open, and you'll see about more than that.
Yes.
Masks we already talked. We already talked a little bit about curbside. We already talked about curbside. Can individuals deliver spouse's ballot, or does each person?
No, they can't. So that's something we really need to educate the public about, is only your ballot. If you want to, right, only your ballot.
All right, good question. So all of the 25 absentee voting locations where in villages.
And an ID.
I'll
Also,
post it. Whoever asked that, there are all the locations, those 25 absentee, those are not absentee voting locations. Those are early voting locations. There are 25 early voting locations, and those are all posted on our website and all of our social media.
Yes.
Yes, you can check by phone to make sure applications arrive. When do absentee ballots get sent out? They're already starting to get sent out. Just
military and overseas.
You're starting regular absentee ballots when, like, the end of
next week.
Next week. Okay, good.
Yes.
All right. And if you accidentally ask for a ballot more than once, is that a problem?
No, we have boxes of duplicates.
Right.
And
it's unfortunate, and it creates more work for your office.
It does. It does. But no, you're not going to get in trouble. There's you're okay. You're okay.
However, we
won't send you that many ballots.
Yeah. So you can send in as many applications as you want, but one ballot.
No.
One ballot.
Send in one.
All right. If anybody else has questions for Kara, you can email me or the league through Facebook Messenger, and we will make sure we get all of your questions answered from her. She's been very helpful and very accessible to all of us.
Yeah. Or you can call me. You can call my office.
And we can call the office too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody for your great questions. I hope that was helpful. Kara, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate all y'all do. Thank you.
All right. Let us know if there's anything else that we can do to help you.
Y'all are, I will let you know. Y'all are great. Thank you. Yes, just help us get the word out of everything that we put out. So thank you. Y'all do. Y'all are great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kara.
Bye. Thanks.
All right. Now we are going to move on. And I'm assuming that whatever issues we have, we'll figure out how to log on and not log on. If you couldn't find the link to log on, you can actually just go to the YouTube channel and watch from there. And I'm assuming that somebody else is monitoring and emailing that out, because I'm talking and you can't go on my email right now. So hopefully that will work out. So now I'm going to get ready. Now we're going to move on to our speakers that we invited here. So I want to say that the military brought me to this town with my Coast Guard husband about 13 years ago. So I know what an impact the military has had on my life, on our life, my family's life, with all the great friends and great locations and job security and healthcare. And so what we're going to do now is hear about the impact that the military has on our Corpus Christi community from two very handsome young men from the South Texas Military Task Force. So I read their resumes, and Alan Wilson, who's the chairman, and Kresten Cook, who's the executive director, they have both long, storied, impressive careers in our community with banking and CCAD, tons of community service and volunteering. But since this is the League of Women Voters, I would like to point out that probably one of the best things about both of them is their wives. So every successful man, there is, well, we know there's women, but anyway, I think it just shows great judgment and great taste on their part. So now here they are to tell us, what is the South Texas Military Task Force? What does it do, and why should we care? Here is Alan Wilson and Kresten Cook.
So thank you, Debbie. Kresten, I don't know about you, but being called handsome, I wish my mother had heard that.
And young too, my goodness.
Yeah. Listen, thank you very much. We're excited to talk to you all about the South Texas Military Task Force. about the South Texas military bases, and hopefully give you some information that perhaps, even though you may have lived here all your life, that you may not know. And so, Kresten, are you going to be the one that does the slides?
Yes, we could tag team the briefing and I'll bring it up on the screen if I can figure this out. Okay.
Okie doke.
Okay, we do slideshow from the beginning. How's that? Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Good.
Can y'all see it?
I see thumbs up.
Okay. Can you go to the next slide? So who are we? What's the mission of the South Texas Military Task Force? It is to preserve, protect, communicate, and expand the value of the military facilities in the Coastal Bend region of Texas. And we're going to talk about what that means. Next slide. We want to talk a little bit about our members. We have, as you can see, a large group. And if you look at those names, there's going to be a number of people that you recognize. I think that's an indication of many people in this community understand the value and the importance that our military facilities have to South Texas economy and also to the national security mission. Next slide.
And also, Alan, to add that we are a nonpartisan group, just like League of Women Voters, and we're composed of business and industry and government leaders and the military.
That's right. I was thinking when Debbie was talking that we really align in a lot of ways. We're nonpartisan and we look at a lot at policy. Here's a picture of that we took pre-COVID. I guess that was February or March. But you'll notice the mayor and the county judge, the city manager, a lot of military leadership, United Corpus Christi Chamber, John LaRue, quite a few people. We have a really good group and it's fun to work with. Next slide.
Of course, this picture was taken in pre-COVID days, and we had a great photographer, I might mention too. You remember that, Ellen?
Was her name Debbie?
Debbie, yes.
So what do we do? So the South Texas Military Task Force communicates, protects, and works to expand the value of South Texas military installations. Now, I want to put extra emphasis on the word value. The military value of our bases has a lot to do with whether we get to keep them and even whether we get to grow. And so we are always about trying to enhance the military value of South Texas military installations. We advocate locally at the state level and at federal or national level about funding and legislation that would be supportive. We go to Washington, D.C., we go to Austin, we get involved with legislation at the upcoming legislature in Texas. We go to D.C. at least once and most years twice, going to the Pentagon, going to the Navy Yard, going to Capitol Hill to advocate for our bases. We foster a military friendly atmosphere in South Texas that serves as a liaison between the base and the community leadership. I think if you asked the commanders and the leadership out on Naval Air Station Corpus and Kingsville, those present and those past, I have heard them say, and I know Kresten has too, over and over again, that of all the bases and the places they have served, that we are at the top as far as supportive and friendly to the military. And that's not true in a lot of places around the country and around the world. When we say we travel to Washington, D.C., Austin, and military, I do want to say one thing. Our budget is basically paying for staff and for lobbyists. When we go to Washington, D.C. or to Austin, the individual members of our task force pay their own way. And that's important if you are a donor to us. And we're going to ask you to consider being a donor, or at least talking to other people about being donors. You need to know that we're putting our money where our mouth is and not using that for us to have nice trips to DC. We believe in what we're doing. We research what other communities around the nation are doing to enhance the military value of their facilities. So we look for best practices, and we maintain communication with other military communities across the nation to share ideas. We've worked on encroachment for air training, where development gets too close to landing strips, or even wind turbines. We're not against wind turbines, but we are if it affects air training routes. And we work with other communities to figure out ways to mitigate, to allow as much development as possible, but without hurting the value of our military mission. Next. Why is the South Texas Military Task Force needed? These military installations are vital to national security, and they're vital to the economic health of the coastal bend. Did you know that in the state of Texas, the military operations contribute $132 billion a year in our state? If any of our bases were slated for closure, the job loss and the economic impact would be devastating to our local community. Did you know that our area military operations contribute over $5.3 billion a year to our economy, 10,000 direct jobs, and over 30,000 direct and indirect jobs? It's a huge economic impact. Next.
Alan, I'd just like to add that these figures just came from the governor's office in June. The military operations numbers, economic impact, $132 billion. To put that into some kind of perspective, agriculture in Texas is a $120 billion industry. So believe it or not, the military is actually a bigger industry than agriculture in Texas, second only to energy.
That's great. Thank you. The area military operations, you may think, well, we know this. I want to tell a quick story. A few years ago, we did a tour for some city leaders. One of the council persons was on the tour, and when they got out there, they turned to the tour leader and said, "What are all these helicopters doing here?" That made us know that, not everybody that lives here knows what goes on out there. We have the Naval Air Station Corpus Christi. We have Corpus Christi Army Depot, Naval Air Station Kingsville, and the Coast Guard Sector Air Station at Corpus Christi. All are in our community. Okay. So let's talk about Naval Air Station Corpus Christi. Did you know that it was established in 1941 as the largest pilot training facility in the world? Did you know that NAS Corpus Christi contributes $2.7 billion by itself per year to the Texas economy? And as Kresten said, these are brand new numbers out of the governor's office done by the Texas Comptroller. Did you know that NAS-CC is an economic engine supporting South Texas? Think about all the groceries and the cars and the clothes that people that are associated directly with the base are spending in our community, and those extra jobs that are being provided. Did you know that over 400 new pilots are trained every year at NAS Corpus Christi? Next. Did you know that Naval Air Station Corpus Christi is the largest single employer in Corpus Christi? This can vary. Every once in a while, we're second to CCISD, but we're right there, and a lot of times we're larger than even CCISD. NAS Corpus Christi has a total workforce of 4,002 and contributes by itself 12,949 direct and indirect jobs to the Texas state economy. Here's another fact that a lot of people don't know. The Navy owns Naval Air Station Ingleside, but it's not the only thing that's there. There are 41 tenants that call NAS Corpus Christi their home, and they pay rent. Corpus Christi Army Depot is one of those tenants. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, you've seen those airplanes flying in and out. And another fact that a lot of people in Corpus Christi don't know, there is an admiral that is stationed in Corpus Christi. His letters are Sinatra, but they stand for Chief of Naval Air Training. Did you know that the chief of all naval air training for the world is stationed at our base and has been for years and years and years, even is over the Blue Angels. So every pilot that gets trained in the Navy, their bosses look up to our admiral here in Corpus Christi. It's a big deal. And we're very proud that we have that. Next. Okay, so I want to introduce Kresten. Kresten was, and correct me, Kresten, I'm going to get it technically right, deputy to the commander of the Corpus Christi Army Depot for many years, which means that he was the highest civilian there. So it's apropos that he be the one that starts off here with the Corpus Christi Army Depot.
Okay, thank you, Alan, very much. If I refer to Corpus Christi Army Depot as us or we, that's just me thinking I'm still working there, okay? But I have retired. Thank you for inviting us to this presentation. A little bit about CCAD. It is the largest helicopter repair facility in the world. And when we talk repairs, we're not talking fixed minor things. Think about taking your car in and stripping it down to the frame and putting a new engine, new transmission, everything back together and making it like new. That's what the repairs at CCAD are like. Huge contributor to the local economy and to the Texas economy. And as we mentioned from the governor's office. And another little known thing is CCAD, or Corpus Christi Army Depot, must operate as a business. It's called Working Capital Fund. So the Army Depot runs on profit and losses every year. It bids on work. The Department of Defense does not have to send work to the Army Depot. The depot has to compete for it. And the profit and loss, the money they make on repairing the helicopters go back in to fund the operations and the payroll. Huge payroll, by the way. The annual revenue of the Army Depot is over $1 billion a year. So that would make it one of the largest companies within Texas. And also one of the largest employers in the area. In the past, the Army Depot has had over 6,000 employees. And these employees are mostly civilian. There are approximately 50 military at the Army Depot. With a commander, Army Colonel Commander, who basically is overall, and the deputy is the top civilian. Workforce these days of a little over 3,000 people. And these people are very highly skilled and trained because they are working on aviation type business. And also to mention the equipment that's used in these processes is very specialized and very expensive. When you're in the remanufacture of aircraft business, for example, the transmission test cells, the machines that you put the aircraft transmissions in to test them to be sure that they're good to go before they go on the airplane. The investment in the test cells recently is a $100 million investment. So we have the highly skilled employees and the specialized equipment. That's what makes the depot so important to the Army and to Department of Defense. And you're looking at the bottom of that slide, look at the average annual salary with benefits. That's pretty impressive for the area. And oh, by the way, there have been no layoffs at CCAD because of COVID. The workforce is fully employed. The management has divided it up into 3 shifts, so people are physically distanced but still getting the job done at the depot. That's for CCAD. A little bit about Naval Air Station, our neighbor to the south, the Naval Air Station Kingsville. Their mission is providing strike fighters to the Navy. They train 50% of strike pilots, and that means people that fly jet airplanes. We see them occasionally over the skies here, but usually we see the Naval Air Station Corpus Christi planes, the propeller planes, the T-6s, over our skies in Corpus Christi. They train students from all over the world, allied countries, NATO, Navy, Marines, all services. They also contribute significantly to the local economy. Now, another thing you might not have known about Kingsville is they provide air traffic control services for southeastern Texas down to the border. and their workforce is over 1,300 people. A larger percentage of that is military at Kingsville right now. And why do we have, air training facilities and Army depots in the area? It's because we have great flying weather here in South Texas. Over 300 days a year that you can do VFR, visual flight rules, which means there's good open skies and there's a lot of cubic miles of airspace that's unencumbered. Alan mentioned one of the things that we are concerned with this military task force is the safety of those pilots going around, wind turbines. We're all for wind energy in South Texas, but we want to be sure that the training routes for these pilots are taken care of and they're safe as possible. Now here's an area where Debbie will perk up and say Coast Guard Sector Air Station Corpus Christi, because she is near and dear to a former commander at that sector air station. So I hope I get this right, and you can correct me, Debbie, if I'm wrong, okay? How about that? On the entrance road to the Corpus Christi Airport, you might not have noticed it, but if you look to the right, you'll see the big headquarters building. It has a big stripe across it, Coast Guard insignia. That is the headquarters of Coast Guard Sector Air Station Corpus Christi. They have a large mission and a large area to cover. It's not just Corpus Christi. That basically they are responsible for half of the Texas coastline from Port Lavaca to the Mexican border. And they do much more than search and rescue. They ensure the safety and security of our ports and waterways. They protect our environment and make sure that endangered marine species are protected. They also protect the integrity of our maritime borders and ensure the health of U.S. fisheries is a vital part of their mission. The Coast Guard enforces international fishing agreements to suppress illegal and unreported and unregulated fishing activity. They intercept highly dangerous illegal smuggling operations at sea before the offenders can get on U.S. soil. That's a big mission. Looking at the $56 billion of maritime commerce, they ensure the flow of that in our area as well. And they're also in the life-saving business. Over 100 lives are saved every year by our own Corpus Christi Sector Air Station. And they not only save lives, but they save property. And the bottom part of the screen there is the vessel security screenings they do to ensure the safety and be sure that what comes into U.S. waters is safe. And, the 4 tons of illegally caught fish, they seize that every year to be sure that people are maintaining the standards of the United States. One other that's not a military installation that we want to mention is the Port of Corpus Christi. And you might not think of the Port of Corpus Christi as being a military installation, but it actually does have a military component, designated a strategic military port. And if you were in the area of the port over the past few months and looked in the Whataburger Baseball Park parking lot, you might see some tanks and military equipment out there. That equipment is being staged for transport across the world. That equipment will arrive by train or truck and is shipped out on these giant, they call them roll-on, roll-off ships or ro-ro ships. You'll see these large ships come in to the port. They are not here long, but they're loaded up very quickly and sent to military operations across the world. Over the past 3 years, these operations at the Port of Corpus Christi have increased to the point where our port now is one of the largest military ports tonnage-wise in the nation. I'll turn it over to our chairman there to talk to you a little bit about how we're funded and how we operate.
Thanks, Kresten. Great job. So how are we funded? Well, we're funded by local individuals that believe in the importance of the military base and also in national security and are, I would say, pro-patriotic. We are funded by local businesses that believe the same thing. On the next slide, you're going to see some of the logos. And then we're also funded by local governments, the city, the county, San Patricio County, the port, and they believe in the importance and value of these bases, and so they put their money where their mouth is. Next. So how can you support the South Texas Military Task Force? Well, please help us by spreading the word. We, as the example I used of the city council person that didn't even know the Corpus Christi Army Depot was there. Kresten, did the depot start in the early 60s?
It started around 1960, Alan, correct?
Yeah. So it's not a newcomer to the area. Help us spread the word. If you are involved with organizations or you know people that are involved with organizations that need a program, we'd love to come tell this story so that we could get more support for supporting our military. We extend the offer if you could request a tour of the area military facilities. If you all had a group that wanted to go out, if you've never been, you should. If you've never been, it's impressive. We can arrange tours for local community people. You may not know that since 1941, the Chamber of Commerce and now the Military Task Force have provided the gold wings that the graduating pilots get. And you could attend one of those winging ceremonies, and I guarantee you would be inspired to see the young people that are dedicating themselves to defending us. Their families come from out of town, and it's a tremendous thing. If you want to do that, I highly recommend it. And then you can join us next time we go. We've had to postpone our trips to DC because everything's kind of locked up, but it'll come back, and it's very informative, and you could go with us to talk to leaders in our country about our support and the importance of these bases to South Texas. You could also volunteer for the USO. You may not know, Steve Banta was commanding officer of Naval Air Station Corpus Christi. I think it was 2 commands ago, maybe 3 now. His wife, Sarah, who grew up here, told Steve when they got married that she would follow him wherever he went. But when they retired, she got to pick it, and she picked it, Corpus Christi, and she's now the executive director of the local USO. They are taking care of sailors that are out there that are away from home. You can volunteer and support there. You can help us in different ways in volunteering, and we'd ask you to consider, or people you know, or companies you know, for the financial support. We're very transparent. The vast majority of our budget goes to staff and lobbyists. The rest of the trip money and all that, the rest of us pay out of our own pocket because we believe. Next.
Sorry about that, Alan. I think I just hit the last slide.
Is that the last one?
That was it. Thank you.
Yeah, we want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about what we believe in, and I'm so proud of our community that it is pro-military, it is pro-American. We appreciate the sacrifices that our military make for us. And just one last thing, I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Corpus Christi. Veterans Day week, we will again for the 3rd time put out 1,000 American flags along Ocean Drive. I wish you could hear the comments that Rotarians get from our community, and it is truly an indication of the heart of support that the people of our community have for the military in our country. We would be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, you guys. That was amazing. I know, as Kresten pointed out, my husband was in the Coast Guard, so I was familiar with some of that stuff, but I know that's amazing to me that somebody went and had no idea that there were even helicopters there, what they do with those. And Alan, I love when you put the flags out there. In fact, I have taken pictures of them for a couple of years, and that's actually the photo that I used for the event photo on Facebook for this event. It's on our website and our Facebook page. I used a photo that I took at the Aviation Memorial with all the flags. So love that you guys do that. Kresten, I just wanted to first of all, I just want to point out the Coast Guard you were saying here. I know Bob used to say that of all the jobs that the Coast Guard has, all the different jobs, the only one that Corpus Christi, Air Station Corpus Christi didn't have to do was ice breaking. Literally, they did everything the Coast Guard could possibly do except ice breaking here. And also, Alan, I know you invite us all to join a winging, and I have to say the best part of the winging would be the party afterwards. So does that include that?
We can arrange that.
All right, well, that's the fun part. All right, so we do have a couple of questions here for you. Does the South Texas Military Task Force participate in the BRAC decisions? Can you talk?
Well, participate in?
Go ahead, Kresten, if you want, and I'll answer.
Sure. And when there is a base closure relocation event, we are there to provide testimony that similar to, what we just presented to you, what's important about the military installations in South Texas. We also want to be sure that our lawmakers have all the information about our military installations in the area before they make these critical decisions. We work with the military installations in the area to be sure that the data that we say, like the data I provided in this presentation, is accurate and up to date. And then, we're here to show that we're a military friendly community. That goes a long way when a BRAC commission makes decisions to shut down. For example, our community doesn't complain about the airplane noise above our, in the sky. We actually think that's a sound of freedom. And that's why we get the feedback that we're a military friendly community. So those are some of the ways that, we help and our lawmakers make the right decision when they have to make those tough BRAC decisions.
If I could add to that.
Please do, please do.
So we haven't had a BRAC in a while. It's too late to save your base if you wait until there's a BRAC to try to enhance or maintain the value. So we are, every day we have Larry Myers in Washington, D.C. that is watching every bill, alerting our congressmen and senators to bills that might impact the military value of our bases. Recently, in fact, there was a kind of a low on the radar move to try to grab some of the work that the Army Depot does and move it to Pensacola, Pensacola, Florida. But our legislators caught it and were able to stop it. That's the kind of stuff all the time, because if you let that happen, when you get to a BRAC, well, Corpus doesn't really have that. And it turns out as a result of that catch, military is doing a study and they're saying, hey, we need more work in Corpus. So that's just one small example of why we've got to stay with it and be persistent.
That sounds great. Yeah, to work on that all the time and not just when there's a BRAC decision. Right. So one of the questions on here, and I don't know if you can actually answer this because it sort of is out of, you'll see. It says, Mr. Wilson, and also Mr. Cook in another question. Thank you so much for your service. In fending off BRAC from the support of our local economy. BRAC is a constant on the horizon. Is there an opportunity to diversify our economy? And if so, what are the starting steps we should take? Now that's asking you what to do outside of what it is that you promote that we do. So I don't know how you want to answer that.
One of the things I would say, go ahead, Chris. Okay. One of the areas, maybe diversifying our economy and connecting it to Corpus Christi, is the Army Depot was recently given some workload for unmanned aerial vehicles. And that goes right together with A&M Corpus Christi and their operations. And I see the UAV business at the depot being a positive thing for the future.
So I've
forgotten about that. Go ahead, Alan. Thanks. What do you have?
I've been a banker in Corpus Christi. July was 39 years. And I remember back in the 80s that we were pretty energy dependent. So the military task force is trying to create, like Kresten said, diversity within our scope of strategy. The economy outside of the military, it has been diversified. If you compared numbers from 1986 when there was an oil crash to today, there's a lot more that is not oil related. But our goal in the task force is to be a part of that diversity, but within the setting that we reach out to, like Kresten was talking about on unmanned aerial vehicles. So there's the diversity within our realm or our circle of influence, and then there's been a natural diversity that's occurred in South Texas over the years.
I think this is a sort of follow-on to that. Do you see opportunities for the transfer of these skills that all of these people have, for example, in CCAT or any of these military skills, to automotive or other non-petrochemical industries to help diversify?
Kresten?
Yes, I do. These are, specialized skills that, in electronics and aviation repair. Perhaps we could have another facility that has aviation type repair for maybe small airplanes. I know Delmar has a facility at the airport where the Army Depot has worked with them to help develop those skills, those mechanics in that area. And the automotive business is another business that, is highly technical these days. I can't repair my own car these days. And it requires those specific skills. A lot that is, learned. You could take a lot of the skill sets from Army Depot employees and apply it elsewhere. And generally, federal employees do retire a little bit earlier than normal, and they're looking for other areas to work and to continue their careers. And so that's a good opportunity for the community. And these people like to stay in Corpus Christi as well.
Yeah, everybody that I know who came here through the military, we all wanted to stay. I mean, we came here 13 years ago and my husband retired and he was like, well, we want to stay here. So he looked for a job in the area. I can see why people want to stay here.
It's amazing how many of the military say Corpus Christi is it, and we want to stay here.
It does give you a lot of management expertise here.
Yes.
Somebody wants to know how the helicopters get here.
Sometimes they are flown in on Air Force planes. Sometimes they're trucked in. If you see on I-37 every once in a while, you'll see a kind of a big covered up thing that sort of looks like a helicopter without its blades. They'll come in on trucks or trains. And sometimes they come in, if they're crash damage aircraft, on more than one truck in much smaller pieces. And the depot puts them all back together. That's, many different ways. And sometimes they fly in if they're still, kind of flyable and safe. They'll fly to the Army Depot, and sometimes the pilots get out and kiss the ground and they're happy they got to CCAT.
I remember years ago, my father was visiting and we took him into the Coast Guard hangar and he was having a tour. And I think at that time, the Navy was storing a bunch of helicopters in there. CCAD was storing some helicopters there. My father was fascinated to see bullet holes in one of them. And we have a picture of him pointing to the bullet holes and he was just like amazed. And we're like, that's why they're here. They need to be fixed.
Exactly.
All right, I'm looking. Does anybody else have any questions? I think we've done everything in the chat box. I will say Chris Garcia, who's one of our previous presidents, said, thank you, both of you, for your committee service. She wants to say that her late father was among one of the first Army folks assigned in 1962. And he read about the Army Maintenance Center being formed while they were in Germany and was assigned, and he loved being here.
Hello, Chris.
A little bit of history there. All right. Does anybody have any questions? Here's a question. Are you talking with government or private industry in expanding the South Texas military installations to include spaceport technology like they're doing in Cameron County?
Well, it's a good point. We have not connected with the SpaceX people or anything like that yet, but the skills would transfer. And the other thing is there's capacity at the Army Depot. Like I mentioned, at one time they had over 6,000 employees. Now they're down to 3,200. So there is some capacity to do extra work, and the depot has provisions to do work for private companies back and forth. And so that's another thing that we can help the area, provide more jobs to our community, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Excellent. Because they don't only do military work, they can do non-military work as well.
Correct.
All right. Well, thank you. I don't see any other questions coming in. So thank you guys. That was really interesting. This is all being streamed live to YouTube, which we'll put on our Facebook page and our website in case you want to go watch yourselves later, or somebody else wants to watch it, or any of us who are late coming in who want to go and check it out. That will be an option. Wait, I'm one more comment here. I'm just going to check the Q&A real quick and see if there's anything new we want to ask before we go. Oh, sorry. This was a great question that I missed earlier. The Navy League. I know in past year, I know Bob's been involved in the Navy League in the past, and that was always involved. Is that still around, and you guys work with the Navy League at all?
I believe the Navy League is still there. Matter of fact, Jenny Larson, who was very close to that, I worked with her at the Army Depot, and her husband, Don, as well. And I see them, well, I haven't seen them at recent events, but within the past year, I've seen them at Navy League events.
Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you very much, you guys. That was awesome. And I know we're all thankful that you were here, and we'll all spread the word to other organizations that we're in and see if they want to hear. Oh, I know. Maybe we can ask you for your PowerPoint presentation, and we could post that for a while in case people didn't get to see it all and want to look back at it.
Certainly, I'll be happy to provide it to you. And thank you, Debbie, for hosting us, and
Yes,
the
Debbie.
League of Women Voters for the work that you do.
All right. Thank you so much. Don't forget to vote.
Absolutely.
All right. Now I want to do a little bit of league business here. We want to talk to, who should we do first? Let's do Raul. Are you here? Can I talk to Raul first and have him give a little bit of updating on voter registration, since voter registration is a huge issue for us right now. National Voter Registration Day is coming up on September 22nd.
Yeah. Hey, thanks. Hey, everybody. How are you doing? Good to see everybody on online today. Missing you in person for sure. Just a little quick update. As you know, we're pretty much at a standstill with voter registration as a collective effort, but we were out at Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi yesterday. Fortunately, I was able to talk to the Student Government Association about 2 weeks ago and offered to talk to whoever, whenever they'd like to, have us do that. But then they came back and asked us to come out and do a voter registration event. And so we did that yesterday. It was very fruitful. We only registered 26, but we thought that was a good number considering the situation. The main takeaway was we were able to execute our safety plan, if you will, where we had gloves available, drop box, envelopes, plexiglass, and we're able to, to conduct the event safely and with high confidence that everybody was going to be fine. The university did their part as well. They had students swipe their identification as they were coming into the room that they designated for us, and only so that they could, do some contact tracing if in the event that they needed to. And so very, very controlled event between the university and our efforts. And so we're happy about that. And the other thing about that was that the athlete group had about 5 of the current athletes. There's a couple of volleyball and a couple of soccer athletes that got deputized, and they're there with us. And I think that was a good experience for them, so that we're able to mentor them a little bit about how to do voter registration. And that way they can continue doing that here on campus, as time allows. And in fact, they're doing a voter registration for athletes later this week. And so, very important work, especially you can imagine where many of those athletes come from out of state even. Mm-hmm. And so there's a big effort to try to get everybody, educated about voting and registered, if they want to do that, either here or in their home and record county. So some good work here at A&M Corpus Christi yesterday. Very proud. Sylvia Whitworth, Nick and Maria Jimenez, Elisa Gonzalez, and Bolton Brownlee were out here and did a great job. And so very proud of the team. So then next Tuesday, September 22nd, is National Voter Registration Day, and it's going to be pretty cut back this year, obviously with COVID going on. Right now, what we have going on is that we're going to be at City Hall. They have us outside on the LaPan Street entrance, and we'll take our shade and our plexiglass and everything else, and we'll be stationed there from 10 to 2 o'clock this coming Tuesday as our National Voter Registration Day event. But as importantly, right now we are negotiating with KRIS to do a drive-through voter registration event, hopefully on Tuesday between 4 and 6:30 during their evening broadcast. but we're going to do a Zoom maybe later today or tomorrow to try to work out the details. They're very excited about it. And I think they may push us to a little later, so it may not be a National Voter Registration Day event, but maybe later in the week or early the following, certainly sometime before October 5th, the last day to register to vote. So I think that'll be exciting. We'll get some notoriety, and they'll promote it on their, on their broadcast leading up to it, and then hopefully during the event come out and do some footage and an interview. Other than that, we've been getting a bit of FaceTime with different groups. I've done a few briefings to organizations to kind of get the word out there, based on our digital campaign, using our flyers and slides, and just getting on Zooms to talk to folks. And we had a interview with Kay Otto yesterday. Maria Jimenez was able to get on the microphone with them over here at A&M Corpus Christi. I was on Zoom with Marissa Cummings with Channel 3 this morning, and I think that's going to be aired tomorrow morning. She does that early morning show. And right now we're waiting on a call back from Domingo Live, who I think want to have us provide some information for broadcast maybe this Sunday. So trying to get everything out there. And although we're not face to face with prospective voters like we want to be, we're doing the best that we can. And that's how it is today.
Great job, Raul. I know I brought you up. I interviewed with Katya Uriarte from Channel 6 the other day. I don't know when that's going to air, but I did talk a lot about your voter registration efforts and gave them flyers. I was at the farmers market last night, and I think they're going to set up a voter registration table there, and they're going to have our flyers there ready to hand out. But one of the farmers there is a deputy, so he's gonna be available to both sell you eggs and also register you to vote if need be. So
yeah,
the little thing.
Good. It all matters.
Yes, it does. All right. Thank you so much, Raul. That's awesome.
Thanks.
All right. Let's hear from, I don't know, Catherine. Catherine, are you on? Do we have Catherine Oler who can talk to us about vote411.org and the voter guides and where we are on those? And Catherine, I know I was talking to you the other day and heard from the Secretary of State's office that some bad actor might have been trying to spoof Vote 411. So we have to be careful and always use the .org when we're talking about Vote 411. If you're writing it especially, always do vote411.org, and so that people will go to the right place. All right, Catherine, tell us what we got going on.
Okay, what we have going on with Vote 411 is we're still collecting responses to our questions from the candidates. They've been slow in coming. One of the issues that we have faced is that many of these invitations to participate in that have gone to junk, spam, or trash folders in their email communication. And so that, we've had to do going back and forth with them saying, did you receive it? Doing personal calls, telephone calls, and emails. Again, making the candidates aware that this is an opportunity for them to answer some questions that are important to the community. So right now, we probably have a handful of candidates who have not responded. I actually had one just about an hour ago say, please excuse, and I said, get it to me today, get it to me today. So what we're doing is that we're looking at hopefully taking it to the caller times on the 25th, September the 25th, to go to press. It's still ahead of when early voting starts, but obviously it's not it's not out there in time for the candidate forums. But again, we just wanted to it's the proverbial pulling teeth. You don't want to go to the print without having sufficient information. And so we've really been working hard to encourage, I've been nagging. Let me put it that way.
Sometimes you just have to do that.
Yeah, I know they're tired of hearing from me saying, come on, get this in, get this in. But I'm really pleased with the responses and the email address issue. I'm certainly going to take up with the LWV US gurus with the 411.org to see, what we could do perhaps to, I know it's the email filters that are doing it, but it's still, if there's some way, a workaround or something, that would be something to look into for the next time around. So
I know, Captain, the only thing I can think of, and I know it's a pain in the neck, but instead of sending the email out en masse to everybody, if you send it one at a time, they're less likely to go to spam. So that's one thing that we can do locally, is to just email one person and then, cut and paste and email the next person, cut and paste, email the next person. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, one of the things, interestingly, the yahoo.com addresses were more likely to bounce or go immediately to one of those, spam, junk, or trash for some reason. And there were also at least one, we had one at outlook.com, and that one also sort of disappeared off the radar for the candidate. So again, I think it's just, looking at and talking about that with Vote for One and seeing if we can. When these are sent out via the app, they are sent out, it is a bulk email, but they're not shown. I mean, it goes to each, it generates an individual letter for each candidate. And so it's not, it's not like there's a, in the two.
Right.
So we were, there were, as you know, there were a lot of candidates this time. And so just getting into contact with them, and some, not as skilled as others in terms of using, any kind of platform, but, giving guidance. I'm just really where we were a couple of weeks ago. I was thinking, okay, are we going to have any responses from the candidates? But they have really been working with us to get those in. So anyway, like I say, we're going to have the material for the printed guide on the 25th. It's possible that we'll go ahead and upload to Vote for One before that, depending on even if we go up, the candidates still have an opportunity, the remaining few, to go in and add the material to Vote for One. It just won't be in the printed guide. And so, we make that very, very clear in our communication with them. So, there's still that opportunity. Anything else I can tell you?
These Vote 411 and the voter guides, and in particular, vote411.org, is going to be particularly important this year because there is no straight ticket voting. People have to be informed before they go, and they have to go. It's a long ballot. And so they can go on 411 and they can plan their entire ballot out ahead of time and actually have it printed and take it with them to the polling place to make the whole process go faster. So
exactly.
That's something that I'm going to push on social media, because without the straight ticket voting, which I don't like anyway, but a lot of people do, it's a lot more work and a lot more time.
Right.
So I think it's a valuable thing, and I know it's a lot of work. I have a question for you. Is it possible to run a paid ad in the Caller Times reminding candidates to contact you to get themselves into the guide? I don't know how much money that would cost us.
I don't know about that. This year there were an unusually large number of candidates, primarily for the city of Corpus Christi elections, and we don't always get that. I think again, I have gone back and forth with doing an ad or whether doing snail mail, sending a formal letter, or maybe even a postcard. And
I think we found that a lot of them, once, like if you tell me somebody that I know, or you tell Paula someone that she knows, or tell Rule someone he knows, if we go to them personally, the ones that we have Facebook Messenger or telephone numbers for, if we call them, they're like, oh my gosh, let me go find that, and then they do it. So sometimes it's just, most of them are known to somebody around town. We can poke.
Absolutely. And as I say, I've been nagging, and I've called, I have all their phone numbers, and so I have called those, more than once sometimes. And I've also
herding cats after a while, right?
Yeah, and I will say this: I just got responses from a candidate who just was, And so I talked to people at their party headquarters, and he got them in today.
That's good. That's good. Excellent job. Excellent job.
So-
Well, good luck. Good luck continuing to get all the answers. And again, if you need help from any of us, we can all look and see who we know or who we don't know to try to help poke people as we need to do.
Appreciate that, Dave.
All right. Thank you, Catherine. I think we're moving on to Paula now to tell us about our candidate forums, which start tonight. The time has completely just crept up on us.
Yes, indeed it has. And speaking of people who know people, all I do is reach out to Debbie and have her poke people.
I'm sure people
our
kept hearing from all of
lady about town. Yes, so our candidate forums, because we are not meeting in real life, we're doing these via Zoom, and we elected to record the forums this time just to make it a little bit easier on us moderators, perhaps. So we'll see how this goes, and hopefully we can get back to live streaming at some point in the future, but this is the way we're doing it this time. We'll see how it goes. So we'll ask for feedback later. So as Debbie said, we're starting tonight with the federal and district races. There are 7 races and 15 candidates. On the 22nd, we'll do countywide and county, which comprise of 10 races and 18 candidates. On the 24th, we'll do the mayoral race. There are 10 candidates for that. On the 28th, the city council at large, which has 13 candidates, and the 29th for city council districts 1 through 5. There are 14 candidates in those races. And then on the 6th of October, we'll be doing the Del Mar Board of Regents and CCISD Board of Education. So we have questions from that we have pooled for the Vote 411 and the voters guides. Of course, in those, we have the standard 2 questions that we ask about background experience and what they are hearing on the campaign trail from their constituents. And then also 2 other questions that are topical, which led us to have quite a bank of other questions that we didn't ask, that we don't have room for in the printed guide or on Vote 411. So we'll be pulling from those, from the leftover questions to pose tonight. For some of the other races, there is still an opportunity for people to put in to ask a question. And I know Debbie will be working on posting that on our Facebook page so that people can post questions in the comment section for moderators to be able to curate from. We just ask that questions be topical, be issue oriented, rather than of a personal nature. And they do have to be sort of unbiased. So if you're familiar with the tenor of the questions asked for the voters guide or Vote 411, we prefer the questions to be kind of in that nature. As
Paula, this is social media. This is social media. You're going to get what you get.
Well, you know what? Those questions will be curated, which is why we do the curating thing. We want to remind people that this is and I have reminded the candidates that this is an informative forum for them to be able to put out their platforms and their ideas. It is not an adversarial debate. So we try to have the questions that we pose be as neutral and unbiased as possible. We're trying to avoid being aggressive, just not nonpartisan. We prefer our questions to be nonpartisan. And especially this year, we're trying to be positive and forward-looking, solution-oriented. Anyway, so yeah, so we're going to start tonight. We'll see how it goes. The forum, as I said, will be recorded, and we're working with KIII to see if they will partner with us in the presentation of the forum. So maybe adding a little more professional look to it. And so it will be uploaded to our Facebook page and our YouTube page in a few days, and we'll let everybody know when that's going to be happening. Oh, and for the voters, or the races that I mentioned, you can look in the Voter on pages 10 and 11, the September issue of the Voter, to see who all the candidates are. Anything else?
I don't know. I'm looking to see, does anybody have any questions on that? I think you guys are doing an amazing job. It is so much work to corral all these people, both you and Catherine, for getting them to answer the questions and getting.
Oh, it's so much work for
on the
me
right
to text.
time.
Yeah, for me to text Debbie and say, "Hey, Debbie."
No, but it is a lot of work for you guys, and then having the questions and then running. I mean, that's how many forums in all are there? 5, 6?
It's what did I read off? It's six nights, and we're anticipating that most of them will be like an hour and a half to 2. We'll in the post editing, or in the editing process, we'll put timestamps on when the different groups are on, so that if people are only interested in a particular race, they can go right to that section of the video, which is kind of the nice thing about being able to do it in a recorded manner, so that, you know, if you're not interested in everybody's opinion, you can just go to the one.
No, YouTube is really good about that. You can just put in the description what time something starts, and it automatically creates a link for someone to click to and go to that. So that's useful.
Yeah.
So that's useful. All right. Well, I am sure once we get these recorded, we'll make sure we get it on Facebook and on our website. We'll get the links everywhere so people can just watch to their heart's content and
Indeed
make educated and informed voting decisions, which is all we ask for, right?
Indeed.
All right. Thank you very much, Paula. Thank you. I really appreciate all the work that you guys do. And hopefully we'll get some good people elected. All right. One quick, we have one more person, but before I do that, someone reminded me, the census 2020. I know we're at like only about 50% participation in the county, even less in the county, and only slightly more in the city. So it's really on all of us to talk to every neighbor, every friend, every relative, everybody you come across. And you can go, you don't even have to get it in the mail. You can just go right to their website, which is, I think it's census2020.gov. I have to go look it up right now. I don't know, but it's a very easy website to find. And I'll post another reminder on our Facebook page, and feel free to share that. But I think more than sharing it on social media, we have to get the people that aren't on social media. We have to really get people to respond to this. And we are running out of time. And it makes a huge amount of difference. It's our representation in this area. It's it's federal funding that comes to this area.
Yeah, that's an important thing to point out, that it is federal funding. And I really liked Catherine's idea that I believe is also written up in the Voter about voting. You know, tell a few friends, they tell a few friends. Please do the same thing about the census. If you tell 3 friends and they tell 3 friends, pretty soon a lot of people, have you filled out your census? Go fill out your census. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
So all we ask is that you register to vote, listen to all the forms or read the forms so you know what you're doing, then vote and do the census. That's all we ask, just a few things. All right. Now, lastly, I would like to hear from Sandra Heatherly, one of our historical members. She knows more about the League of Women Voters. She's probably forgotten more about the League of Women Voters than I've ever known. And I know she was going to talk to us a little bit about our centennial celebration that we had. Sandra, have you found your unmute button? We had a while I'm waiting for her to come on, we had a great centennial celebration that she and a bunch of other people from the League and from like 5 other organizations, we all organized together. It was on, here, I'll let her talk.
Oh, hi.
Centennial.
Yes, Debbie is working on slowing down, and everybody's telling me to talk fast. But I do want to, our most excellent and informative newsletter, The Voter, has a terrific article on page 1, overviewing that and applauding everybody's efforts for that. I really am here today to call everybody's attention to page 3 of the September Voter, where we have the list of contributors to the Centennial Club and our thank you to them. And I would also like to remind you that the Centennial Club is open for membership on an ongoing basis. And it's basically a contribution of $101, which is tax exempt.
One more.
To the league or to the Centennial Committee to enable us to do next year's celebration. And our 100th turned out, it just turned out so well compared to where we were in the spring when we're having to throw out all of our plans. So I just want to encourage people to join the Centennial Club. And when you see the people that are listed as contributors, tell them thank you. And we hope to see them next August 26th or thereabouts for a summer celebration of women's right to vote to be remembered. So that's my spiel.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sandra. Thanks for everything that you do. And that reminds me, the link to donate is still on our website. And I can do another post on social media just to remind people, but that button is still on our website, as is the button to go buy Centennial swag from the local company made Christi. You can still buy things from them, and we still get a portion of the profits go towards our event. And they have some really cool things, t-shirts and bags and coffee cups and all kinds of stuff. So it was great. All right. I think we have had a great meeting considering on Zoom, and we're doing what we can do. I think that, this is September. Our November meeting will be also on Zoom, but we'll have more of a standard meeting, I think, and it will be with the Economic Development Corporation. We have some great speakers from there talking about that. And we'll try to hear from all of our member departments and chairman of our committees and stuff so we can keep going. In November and October, we're just going to focus on forums, Vote 411, voter guides, elections, registering, and voting, and the census. All right. I think we're done. Thank you so much to everybody for coming in. I appreciate you all, and have a great day. Bye.
Okay.
All right.
I've still got it on YouTube. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I
can now. How you doing?
Okay. I'm hoping. Okay, it still says that it's live streaming on YouTube. I closed it on my computer. I didn't want to do that during the meeting, but when I actually closed the screen, the lag stopped. And so that.
Yeah, it does. It still says recording.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to quit YouTube now.
Okay.